In a major success for our security forces, the alleged mastermind of the attack on the CRPF convoy in Pulwama was killed in an encounter with a joint team of the Army, the CRPF and Special Operations Group of the Jammu and Kashmir Police. Abdul Rashid Ghazi, an alleged Pakistani national, is said to be the bomb maker and the brain behind the suicide attack. While 2 terrorists were killed, the Army lost 4 men, including an officer. On the other hand, there are concerns about the safety of Kashmiri students in different parts of the country. There were reports of 12 Kashmiri students being thrashed allegedly by members of the VHP and Bajrang Dal in the aftermath of the attack in Pulwama. Some female students in Dehradun also complained that they had to lock themselves up in a room. In Ambala, at least 100 students have been shifted from private accommodations into the university hostel. 4 days after the attack that left 40 CRPF personnel dead, there are 3 key questions. Firstly, why did the CRPF men become a target, and do we have a strategy in place to prevent such attacks in future? Secondly, do we enjoy the confidence of the ordinary Kashmiri, and is the government able to take them along? Thirdly, how can we ensure that terror groups in Jammu and Kashmir don't get support from across the border? Let's introduce all our guests. We are joined by Mohammad Shafi Pandit, former chairman of Jammu and Kashmir Public Service Commission; Dilip Trivedi, former Director General of the CRPF; Vishnu Prakash, former ambassador and former spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs; Radha Kumar, former Jammu and Kashmir interlocutor. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to begin with you, Mr. Trivedi. 2 terrorists have been killed in Jammu and Kashmir. It was an 18-hour-long encounter. A number of people have been injured as well. Would you call this a big success, considering the government, the army, the CRPF is saying that they've been able to get the mastermind?
Well, Parikshit, it is definitely a matter of satisfaction that we have been able to get the mastermind of this operation and get him so soon. So definitely it's a matter of satisfaction. But as a strategy, you see, killing terrorists is not the main issue. You can kill as many terrorists, but you'll still have terrorists there, because you have left a very fertile breeding ground for new terrorists to join in. So now the problem is that are you fighting terrorists or are you fighting terrorism? Because every year we hear about 200 terrorists killed, and when we ask, the intelligence agencies still say there are 200 terrorists still operating or 250 still operating. So, as I said, this might be a matter of satisfaction, but we have to look beyond this. We have to see how we get at the root of terrorism. And how do we get at the root of terrorism is, one, I think, is that when the states are affected with terrorism, they are given a huge economic package. Now, we should need to revisit this economic package, whether it's necessary or not. If you see in the Red Corridor area, there were huge areas were declared as terrorist infected because of the aid coming in as a result of that from Government of India. So one is that. Second, we have to work on the overground workers and the patharbajes, and from where the initial recruitment for these kind of people comes. They don't become terrorists overnight. They become terrorists over a period of time. So that from where the radicalization begins, and where they are inducted into small roles as couriers of small time, carrying explosives from here to there or guns from here to there, or their houses are being used as shelters.
Mr. Trivedi, I'll get in, Mr. Shafi Pandit. I get your point. I'll get in Shafi Pandit on this, because this is important. While this is a successful operation, we salute the sacrifice of our martyrs, of our brave army and CRPF personnel who have been able to neutralize the mastermind. The factor is, that is not the only terrorist, and there is a problem of radicalization. Mr. Shafi Pandit, if I can get you in at this stage, Adil Ahmed Dar, the person who carried out the suicide bombing on the CRPF convoy, he was an Indian. He was a resident of Kashmir. The problem also lies within. Do you think these successes in counter-terrorism operations, in encounters, is one thing, but you have to win the hearts of the ordinary Kashmiri? Do you think that's where the problem lies?
Well, Parikshit, I think we have several experts on this panel, and I can only tell you the point of view of the local Kashmiri and a person who has dealt with law and order situation over a period of time. I can tell you this now, the forces have indeed claimed that they have got the mastermind of this, but this kind of a statement we have heard several times. It's oft repeated. And it has become a cliche that we have the mastermind, we have now controlled. In fact, there were statements very recently also, we have wiped out militancy here and so on and so forth. This kind of a statement came from the government and the officials right after 2008, 2010, 2011 and 2016 after Burhanwadi incident took place. But you see, the question is whether we want to, first of all, set up peace, which can be peace of the graveyard, or we want a lasting peace. If we have, if the forces claim that they have got several militants in this operation, with that they may be winning a battle, but are they winning the war? That is the important question. The war cannot be won unless and until you are able to get the local people on your side, and particularly the youth, now, which is very volatile. These days, youth is very volatile, and very intelligent. They are very enterprising. They understand things. And you see, the speciality of Kashmiri people has been, they have been politically very conscious over a long period of time. I don't need to recall the time since when they have got this kind of, because several important political developments have been taking place in the state right from 1947.
Right.
Now, the question is, you see, I would understand if, some, Pattharbaz people, who are actually terrorists are taken on, but that's not so. You find, very innocent people. You find people of the age group of 8 to 15 and 16. A lot of people who have been, killed in these kind of incidents over a period of time. If you look at the list of the people killed over the last 10 years, you will see that a lot of people in the age group of 8 onwards, right up to 15 and then up to 25. Large number of people are in this age group.
Right.
And you see, one can understand if an adult person is a terrorist. But how can a person school going who is going for tuition be taken as a terrorist? So that is my point of view in this. And I think this has to be addressed if the war is to be won.
That's a very important point that you're raising. I'd like to get in Radha Kumar, somebody who has been a... You have made your point, sir, but I'll request you to be with us on the panel. We'll come back to you again. But I'd like to get in Radha Kumar, who's been an interlocutor in Kashmir. Ma'am, thanks for joining us. My question to you, and I'd like to follow up on what Mr. Shafi Pandit said. Do you also feel that it's important to, first of all, define the problem? Are we defining the problem correctly? And are we also defining the result we want correctly?
I would say no on both fronts. It seems to me, I completely agree with Mr. Pandit that it is ludicrous to tar everyone with this one brush of terrorism, to give no scope for any expression of anger is as we know, the hallmark of a lack of democracy. You have to give some scope for anger. But it's more than anger. There is frustration. There's also a terrible kind of closeness that has come in to the Indian government's approach to Jammu and Kashmir. The fact that we seem simply unwilling to talk to any Kashmiris, I cannot understand it. How is it possible that you will not talk to anybody? Look at today's headlines, where you're saying you're taking away security from the moderate Hurriyat people who have engaged time and again in peace talks. Why are you doing this? You're taking security away from a man like Abdul Ghani Bhatt, who's put his head on the line, talking about the dangers of militancy, appealing to cross-border militants to stop. And this man you're taking security away from? It defies logic. It defies any common sense. You want to make enemies
all right.
of all
so
the
Radha
people
Kumar,
of the valley?
So Radha Kumar, you're making a very important point that you need to keep the conversation going. You need to have the locals on your side, something that former Home Secretary G.K. Pillai has also said. I'd like to get in Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. Ambassador Prakash, our diplomats probably are working overtime right now. The MEA has begun this process of diplomatic isolation. But do you feel, till the time we don't have locals in Kashmir on our side, if we don't reach out to people on a day-to-day basis, we cannot win a diplomatic war abroad?
You're very right, and I'm happy that you have raised this very valid question. I would broadly agree with the panelists before me. As I see it, there are two aspects. We are caught in a cleft stick. One is an external, the second is internal. Both are as important. Now, as far as the external aspect is concerned, we know that you have not just a state which is sponsoring terrorism, but also has a whole infrastructure which breeds terrorists. I would recall once General Musharraf, when he was the president, he said, and this is a public record, that 85% of Pakistanis are peace-loving. With all due respect, I don't think the general knew what he was talking about. I have served in Pakistan, and I know that 99% of the Pakistanis are peace-loving. But even if 1% are not, and even if 0.5% are radical hardcores, you're talking of 1 million people. It's a country of 200 million people. So you're talking of ultra-radicals or radicals which number 1 million people who are armed, trained, brainwashed and so on. So that is the size of the challenge that we face. Secondly, no insurgency in the world can be contained and reversed without winning the battle of heart and minds of the locals. And that, I'm afraid, that over the years we have been found wanting, because it is indeed unfortunate that young people are willing to make the supreme sacrifice by giving up their lives. And I am told that if you just look at the mobile phones of the youth in Jammu, in Kashmir Valley, the kind of propaganda material that is being carried, mock pictures, sermons, calls, you know, we have literally a huge challenge on our hands. But we are perhaps the only democratic country in the world which has neutralized many mutinies. We have neutralized many insurgencies, whether it's the Northeast or Punjab. But we need to stay the course. And you know, while the security tightening is very important, certainly you have to make it very clear to a terrorist that his shelf life is small. But at the same time, economic aspects have to be looked at, political aspects we have to be looked at, and we have to stay the course. I mean, you know, if when the insurgencies is waning, then our attention shifts. The attention shifts. I'm not pointing fingers, but you see, for the last 50, 40 years, we have seen that we have been unable as a state to take this issue and come up with packages, with efforts, with an arrangement which can slowly wean the youngsters away from extremism. And that alienation has to be contained, because you know, if this feeling continues of us and they, then we still have a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Mr. Shafi Pandit, coming back to you, we have been seeing some reports, some isolated incidents of Kashmiri students being harassed in different parts of the country, including Dehradun, Ambala. These are places from where we've heard reports. Do you think this is counterproductive to any long-term campaign for peace in Jammu and Kashmir? And what should be the solution? Do you think we need to start with people? We need to start with empowering local body elections? We need to start with taking people along with us at every step, Mr. Pandit?
Well, I think it will always be counterproductive if this kind of a reaction, you know, is meted out to Kashmiri students. You know, so sometime there's a cricket match and somebody shouts a slogan or something like that, and they are targeted. And this kind of an incident takes place, you know, it's on the borders. He has not contributed anything to that. But I have one more important point, you know. First of all, I would not like to make an issue of the security cover. And that's, of course, that should be based on threat assessment. That is a separate issue. You know, at one point of time, they withdrew my security also because I expressed a certain point of view on the, you know, the imposition of VAT and all. But that's a separate issue that I would not like to. But Mrs. Radha Kumar made a very important point that, what if steps are being taken to, wean away Kashmiri students from, this kind of, unwarranted activity. And, the most important thing is, how can they be won over until they have job opportunities? But that's not only the. So I'll come to the other point later on. But on this point, I'd like to say that Mrs. Radha Kumar has been, part of the interlocutors team, and she was part of the whole exercise which went into preparation of the 5 working group reports. I was a member of one of them. And what happened to that? It's gathering dust in the Ministry of Home Affairs. I mean, people feel cheated. To be honest, I can tell you, I've been part of the mainstream Indian Administrative Service. I was the first Kashmiri to have entered into the Indian Administrative Service as a direct recruit.
Right.
But, Kashmiri people feel cheated because from earlier times, there's no seriousness to address this. If 5 working groups were addressed, issue, set up and reports are there, people want to know what happened to that. Several packages have been given from time to time.
We'll come back to that.
What is the effect of that? How is that
We'll come back to that. I want to get in Dilip Trivedi.
Yes, but the other important point
I just wanted to ask you, do you think this was, I'll come back to that, sir. Do you think this was a major intelligence failure as well? How do you think the CRPF needs to strengthen and protect itself? It was a tragedy that 40 CRPF men died in this manner.
Yes, you see, the explosives that were used in this operation by the militants did not come in one day, must not have come in one day, or even if they came in one day, it must have been through various channels, and then they must have been kept somewhere, stored somewhere, assembled somewhere, a vehicle arranged, and then a person motivated enough to drive and hit the vehicles or blow himself up. So it's not that it's not a lone wolf attack. It is a lot of people are involved in it. A lot of people are involved. So many people, when they're involved, there's definitely chatter on the phones and there's chatter on this thing. So how come all of this slipped the radar of the intelligence is something that needs to be seen, because this kind of attack never happened. And what the SOPs that were laid out earlier for movement of convoys were not geared for this kind of an attack. They were geared for the intelligence threat perceptions that were there, that IEDs might be planted and things like that. And even that, based on those threat perceptions, you had the ROPs opening up the roads and things like that. So definitely there is some level of a failure as far as this is concerned.
There is some failure.
Coming back to the main issue of where to go forward. Definitely.
Yeah. Mr. Trivedi, I'll come back to that. You have spoken about de-radicalization as well. I want to get in Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. Ambassador Prakash, because we're running out of time, and I would like to put this point to you. Do you think it's very important for the Indian government to also realize that a diplomatic campaign has its limitations? Pakistan is right now important for the United States and other countries because there are talks going on with the Taliban. The Saudi Crown Prince, he is coming to India. He was there in Pakistan earlier. He pledged $20 billion in investments. There is only this far that we can go with a diplomatic campaign. Do you feel that's right?
Yes, you're right. But you are right. We need a multi-pronged approach. One, two. Nothing is going to happen overnight. We have to look for the long haul. Now, the diplomatic approach is an important approach for the simple reason. But before I say that, I am a little tired of some of our experts talking of isolating Pakistan. One cannot isolate a country of Pakistan's size, period. It's the 6th or 7th largest country in the world. Various countries have their interests, strategic, political, economic. What we have been doing, and what we should do even more strongly is to expose Pakistan. And that is what we need to be doing and what we are doing. But we need to do it even with greater seriousness. And I don't see why we should not approach the UN to declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terrorism. It is a state sponsor of terrorism. And that will bring pressure on Pakistan. It is not that it's going to happen tomorrow, but many countries will gradually join. And you have, as it is, Pakistan is under pressure. FATF is being looked at, and the economic squeeze is being applied. So the exposure of Pakistan and an endeavor to have it designated as a terror state will further complicate life for Pakistan, and you need to do what you can by following an economic, political, diplomatic, strategic, military approach. I mean, you have to try different measures, because it is you and I know that there are consequences and of every measure that you take, but you cannot let this situation continue. And also I would urge our experts, the armchair generals and critics, to stop muscle flexing, because muscle flexing is not going to take us anywhere.
And muscle flexing, probably, you know, loud rhetoric on Pakistan is exactly what the Pakistani government and those terrorist groups based there want. I'll have to end here. I'm very sorry, but we've completely run out of time. Mr. Shafi Pandit, Dilip Trivedi, Vishnu Prakash, Radha Kumar, thank you very much for joining us on this panel. Earlier today, we spoke to former Home Secretary G.K. Pillai, and in his piece, he had suggested, in his article, he had suggested that India should be ignoring Pakistan for the next 10 to 15 years and just focus on Kashmir. So we asked him whether the Indian government has actually done enough to get the average Kashmiri on their side. Let's listen in.
I've made it very clear that we are not doing enough. Our primary focus of any government is to win the hearts and minds of its people. And I think that is one area where we have failed in winning the hearts and minds of the people, especially in the valley. So I think this is an area where a lot more needs to be done. I've particularly pointed out the fact that how will you get people involved so that they feel they have a stake in their future? And that is why, the elections to local bodies, which will develop a whole new generation of grassroots leaders in Kashmir, who will then have a stake in the system.
Also, the suicide bomber who carried out the Pulwama attack was a Kashmiri resident. Do you think preventing radicalization is key to any successful campaign in Jammu and Kashmir?
Yeah, process of de-radicalization, a whole campaign for that has to be done on a very large scale, especially in Kashmir. This is because it is a well-known fact that on the social media networks, this process of radicalization, there's a lot of material out there which is people are watching, young people are watching. And some do get swayed, and that is why you find this evidence of radicalization which is there among the youngsters. We have no successful model of de-radicalization. There are a number of studies which have been done all over the world. And we have to pick some of the best methods of that and try and have a massive campaign of de-radicalization, if you want to put it, or counter-radicalization by the government and the non-state agencies to be able to counter-radicalization. I don't think one can 100% stop it, but we can, to a very large extent, do it, because in India especially, the family is a very strong support, including the extended family. And that is one of the big reasons why in India radicalization hasn't really taken root, because our family and our extended family gives us a tremendous amount of support which counters radicalization.
And finally, do you think we also need to prevent any feeling of alienation among Kashmiris, whether it is in the state of Kashmir or among students, Kashmiri students in different parts of the country?
Yes, I think so. I think we have to see, Kashmiris are an integral part of India. It is said that even in the J&K constitution says that they are part of India. So they are Indians. So there is no question of anybody in the rest of India telling Kashmiris to go back to Jammu and Kashmir and so on. So you have to absorb them, you have to feel them, make them feel that they are as Indian as anybody else. So any, propaganda or any, shall I say, outlandish statements which have come out that, people should go away, some college saying, I will not give you admission, and so on, is counterproductive. And I think it is more important for us to make Kashmiris feel that they are part of India.
Right, Mr. Pillai, thanks very much for speaking to CNBC TV 18. With that, it's a wrap on our special coverage on the Pulwama attack after.